Hello and welcome to the Comics and More podcast. I'm Patrick Markfort from Articulate Nerd.
And I'm Dave Ferraro from Comics and More. And this episode we're going to be looking forward to the books we're most excited about coming out in 2012. Last year we did the year in review show, so it's kind of nice to just kind of see what's coming up too. Because it's going to be another exciting year in comics, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one that I wanted to mention was probably one of the more anticipated books of the year. Are You My Mother from Alison Bechdel, who did Fun Home.
Oh, right.
And this is another autobiographical story, but unlike the last one which followed her father, this one actually follows her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, this one's coming out from Houghton Mifflin. It's going to have a first printing of 100,000 copies, and that one drops on May 1st. And I'm sure that's going to be another treat and probably one of the better books of the year, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Great pick. I can't believe I didn't actually think of that one when I was coming up with my most anticipated list, but for sure that will be one of the major releases of 2012, just because Fun Home was so acclaimed and so great. I like Fun Home a lot.
And people are probably anticipating her next book, I feel like, too. Like Craig Thompson, it took a long time for the next book to come, and I think people are pleasantly surprised that Habibi was so good, too. So we'll see if, her sophomore effort is just as good as Craig Thompson's.
Great, cool. Well, I think I'm going to jump ahead on my list then and mention a graphic novel too that is going to be one of the major releases of 2012. It's probably the single release that I'm most looking forward to, and that is Marble Season by Gilbert Hernandez. This is going to be published in the fall by Drawn and Quarterly. And it is supposedly supposed to be a semi-autobiographical work by Gilbert Hernandez, of course, the co-creator of Love and Rockets, who we've discussed several times before on this show. So, Gilbert Hernandez, I love, unquestionably, one of the finest working cartoonists out there. So the fact that he's doing this book as an original graphic novel, semi-autobiographical, which is something new for him, is really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to this book from Drawn and Quarterly for sure.
Yeah, it's a very exciting one.
And he's going to be touring for it too, so who knows? He may come to our neck of the woods.
We'll see. Can't doubt it.
Oh, I don't know.
All right. The next thing I'll mention is something that's been solicited for at least last year, I think even the year before, but never actually came out. And this year the release date is January 15th, so I hope to God it actually comes out this time around. It's The Strange Tale of Panorama Island from Suhiro Maruo.
Another good
from
pick.
Last Gasp, yeah. It just looks like it's going to be a beautiful book. It's about a failed novelist, but I think the story is kind of inconsequential compared to the art. But it's been solicited a few times. I keep trying to reserve it at work to pre-order it, but it always gets canceled because they keep pushing the date back. But they haven't pushed it back from January 15th yet, so I'm hoping that it actually comes out this time.
Right, yeah. We should mention that these are all, the tentative release dates that we've seen from publishers. Inevitably, I'm sure some of this stuff will not hit those exact dates, but hopefully we'll see it sometime in the coming year. I hadn't realized that Panorama Island had not come out yet.
Yes.
So, yeah, I for sure want to read that one, too. That's another great pick.
Yeah.
Sohiro Maruo is a manga artist who is known for a kind of artwork which is really horrible things drawn in a really beautiful style. He's a really interesting cartoonist who we haven't seen a lot of translated in the U.S., but what I have seen I like a lot, so that's going to be a must-buy.
Yeah. And we've seen this before with Pogo, just years and years it gets pushed back and then it finally comes out, so hopefully at this one it's kind of like the case of Pogo where they just wanted to get it right before they came out in a beautiful package, so
we'll see what happens.
We'll see, exactly.
All right, well, my next pick is a comic book series, probably the comic book series I'm most looking forward to reading in the new year. And it's actually a bit of a cheat because the first issue has actually already been released. And actually, that was just released. And that is the Peanuts comic book series that's going to be published by Boom through their Kaboom imprint of children's comics. They already did a number 0 kind of preview issue a few months ago that I quite enjoyed. Paige Braddock, Shane Houghton, Matt Whitlock are the creators, along with Vicky Scott, that are going to be working on the series. Now, I know that some people probably think it's, sacrilegious to be looking forward to new Peanuts comics created by people other than the late, great Charles Schulz. But while it's true that Charles Schulz did draw every single line in the Peanuts comic strip for 50 years, the idea of Peanuts comic books created by other people is not brand new. Not a lot of people know that there were Peanuts comic books, I think probably back in like the 60s, that were done by other creators in the Charles Schulz style. So, at the end of the day, I read that this number 0 issue that Kaboom put out, and I liked it very much. I think, for me, I guess I'm not such a purist that I can't enjoy some of the ancillary Peanuts material. So I just think it would be great fun to have a new Peanuts comic book to read every month. And the book, at least what they put out in the preview issue, seems as though it's kind of drawn in the style of the strip circa 1960s, which is great. So yeah, it was very true to the tone and the drawing style of Charles Schulz, and it even reprinted some classic vintage Peanuts comic strips. So, unless you're a real hardcore purist, I think this book is going to be a lot of fun for both children and adults like me who enjoy that kind of thing. The first issue was sold out at the comic book store, which I hope is a good sign for the publisher. So I haven't yet read it, but it has just been released. So that one is out there right now. Peanuts, published by Kaboom.
Cool. I'll talk about another comic book that I'm looking forward to. And that's a series called Whispers, coming out from Image this month. Mm-hmm. And it's from Joshua Luna, which is one half of the Luna Brothers team.
Right.
And he's, usually, on the writing side of things, so the art's going to look a little different in this one. But it's another, genre work that looks, the cover's been kind of creepy and stuff like that. But I love Luna Brothers work, so I'm looking forward to see what solo effort looks like from one of them.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, we should do a Luna Brothers episode sometime this year, because I have never really read their stuff, and I know you like them a lot, so I need to get caught up on them.
Sounds good.
Terrific. Let's see. I said Marvel season was my most anticipated. I'm so excited about so many things. I shouldn't say this one is my most, because this one is my other most anticipated original release of the year. And that is Kramer's Ergot Volume 8, edited by Sammy Harcum. This is the alternative comics anthology that's been coming out for several years. Volume 8 is going to be published by Picture Box, Dan Nadel's publishing company. And this one's actually a sort of a cheat, too, because there are copies of this book already out there. It debuted at the Brooklyn Comics and Graphics Festival that was held recently. So some people have already gotten their hands on this thing. But it should make its way out to comic book and bookstores in the very early part of the year here. So we should be seeing some copies of it pretty soon. So if people aren't familiar with Kramer's Ergot, several years ago, when the 4th volume of Kramer's Ergot was released, it was sort of a watershed moment for alternative and arts comics. A lot of the most prominent creators who do that type of material had work in that issue that was seen by a lot of people for the first time. So it was a very, very important release, and a wonderful book. Great cover by Matt Brinkman, and just a really eye-opening experience for a lot of people who weren't necessarily used to seeing comics that took such an aggressive, in some cases, non-narrative approach. Although that's not descriptive of all of the comics in Kramer's Ergot. And since that time, it's always been a really prominent, interesting book, these anthologies that Harkham has been releasing. The last one, Kramer's Ergot 7, was quite noteworthy. It was a huge, like a giant size, oversized book, reprinting 1- and 2-page comics from, again, some of the best alternative cartoonists working. Jaime Hernandez and Dan Clowes had work in that oversized issue. And with Volume 8, it sounds like he is going in completely the opposite direction of that. It supposedly is a smaller book physically. It has a smaller list of contributors. So I'm kind of thinking that this is going to be kind of like Kramer's Ergot Unplugged. You know, the last one was kind of like this big, deluxe, expensive hardcover art object, and this one sounds much more intimate and much more focused. But some of the cartoonists that are contributing to this, Ben Jones, CF, Chris Forg, Sammy Harkham himself will have a story in here, Tim Hensley, who did Wally Gropius, Kevin Huizenga, Chris Silla, who did The Heavy Hand to great acclaim this year, the wonderful Gabrielle Bell, Frank Santoro and Dash Shaw are teaming up, and Gary Panter is in this volume as well. So this is going to be just a wonderful, wonderful book full of some of the best working cartoonists out there, as Kramer's Ergot usually is. So for sure I will be trying to get my hands on Kramer's Ergot Volume 8 as soon as possible.
Yeah, sounds good. Like, I like anthologies. You can kind of jump in, anywhere, you know what I mean? And then you can kind of just discover, like, new talents that you would normally have, been exposed to. So.
Yep. And, Kramer's Ergot is probably, like, one of the best, if not the best, comics anthologies going.
Mm-hmm.